Keyframes, keyframes, keyframes. You've probably heard the word thrown around a lot in the animation community, but if you're out of the loop on what keyframes are, this part is for you. Like we explained around the beginning of this tutorial, a keyframe, or a frame, is essentially a layer's screenshot ability to play multiple moving images on your timeline. This is the foundation of animation. However, there are more than simply keyframes with images on them. Right-click here and click this to make a new keyframe. Alternatively, you can just press F6. It lets you place a keyframe wherever you select, and if you're animating frame by frame, pressing F6 on the current layer you're working on will make a keyframe after keyframe, so you can animate as you go. If you already have something in the keyframe, it'll be indicated by the filled-in black dot. If the keyframe has nothing in it, as indicated by its empty dot, it'll just make a blank keyframe. Blank keyframes are exactly what they say on the tin, completely blank, empty. If you select a layer with something on it and hit backspace, boom, blank keyframe, which you can also do by right-clicking and clicking Clear Keyframe. You can also create new blank keyframes if you already have a keyframe that's filled by right-clicking the timeline and clicking Insert Blank Keyframe, or pressing F7. Now a keyframe is something that you want to change or to add something new, but to continue a keyframe and make it last longer, you want to add a frame, which doesn't have a dot but is just a blank line. The end of a span of frames is indicated by this rectangle thingy. You can right-click, then click Insert Frame to do so, or just press F5. It'll add frames to any existing keyframes you're on if you select it. To do the opposite, you can remove a frame or keyframe by right-clicking and clicking Remove Frame, or the shortcut Shift F5. This is different from clearing keyframes, as it doesn't remove what's inside the frame or keyframe, but removes it entirely. Once we get into layers and have multiple keyframes, pressing F5 after clicking this blue indicator will add a frame to the entire frame you're on, like so. Same thing for Shift F5. A few other terms that are used in conjunction or referring to specific techniques are 2s, 3s, 4s, and 1s. These refer to the amount of additional frames that a keyframe has attached to it before the next frame. How you use 2s, 3s, 4s, or 1s is entirely up to you, and we encourage you to try and implement a few into test animations to try and grasp a feel of when or where to use them. This is something we'll go more into in later chapters. Like we mentioned before, we recommend using 24 or 30 FPS to animate. Since the majority of the Sprite animation community uses 30, that's what we're going to be using for this tutorial, but 24 is fine as well. If you need to reverse a selection of frames, highlight the frames, right-click, and select Reverse Frames. Animate will do the rest and reverse the order of the frames for you. When you have a bunch of sprites on a single keyframe, you can highlight all of them by dragging a rectangle with the mouse tool, and then right-click and click Distribute to Keyframes. Done. You can also distribute it to layers, something we'll go over more into the next part. Also, if for whatever reason you have keyframes appearing whenever you move something, that's because Animate CC has Auto Keyframe on by default. Just do this to switch it off, and we recommend you do so as well.